have. Okay. While we are discussing these things today, in component life cycle, we are going to call them as component life cycle. So what is the component life cycle? Nothing but whenever a component is going to create, okay, whenever a component is going to create on the page. So like here, what do we have? Let's execute this one. Okay. npm start. Whenever I do npm start, what happens? A project is starting. Once a project is starting, what is happening? We are having a local host 3000 where components are going to load. So whenever a component is going to load to the HTML application on the web page, or whenever a component is trying to load, or whenever a component is going to create, so there are a couple of life cycles. So what is this life cycle? So these life cycles are nothing but it is going to be a steps, or it is going to be some mandatory information or mandatory functions which are going to execute. Simple example, if you see in my code, okay, if you see in my code, let's go to the body and data. Okay, let's go to the components data. If you see here, I have a function. You see I have a body, I have a render method. Okay, so if you see here, I'm not doing anything. In this class, if I created a component, I have a render method which is defined already. I have a constructor method. So constructor is starting before the rendering. So like this, we have couple of functions available in the component defined by the component class in React. So these components, these functions tells when those functions going to execute before the render method or after the render method. So these things we are going to call as component lifecycle methods. So what are all those component lifecycle methods? Mainly we are going to have three type of component lifecycle methods. One is mounting, one is updating, one is unmounting. So let's see what is mounting, unmounting and updating first. So mounting is nothing but whenever this body component is going to load into the app component. So what functions need to execute? That we are going to call as the component mounting. So whenever component is trying to place in the any other component or any other place, what are all the functions need to execute? Those are component mounting lifecycle method. And the second one, component updating lifecycle methods. If you see this example, previously I have told in the last class, whenever I am modifying this data, the components are updating because whenever a set state method is happened, a component is going to update and render method is calling again. So what we are doing, we are updating the component by using the render method. So we have some predefined function. So here, whenever set state happens, render is going to execute. But at that time, constructor is not executing. You see, so whenever a change data function is calling, at that time, only these functions are executing, render is executing, it's not executing constructor. So these are the types. So whenever a component is going to update, what are all the methods need to execute? Those we are going to call as the component unmounting lifecycle methods. And the third one is component unmounting lifecycle methods. Whenever a component is going to be removed from the DOM, that time we are going to call as the component updating component unmounting lifecycle method. So let's go by one. So what are all the different component lifecycle methods we have? Component updating, component unmounting lifecycle method we have. So first of all, before going to this, we need to know what are all those methods. In the mounting lifecycle methods, mainly we are going to have 4 functions. 4 functions are going to execute when a component is going to mounting. Okay, in these two already you know. In these two already you know. What are all those things? One is constructor, one is the render. So whenever a component is going to execute, mounted to other component, these two are going to execute. This we know already. And then what are all the remaining component lifecycle updating life cycles? So we have set 2 methods pending. Those are going to be get derived states from the props. Okay, get derived state from the props, and then component did mount. There are two other methods which are going to be executed when a component is mounting. Okay, these are not going to execute when the component is going to update. Means if you modify, those won't be executed. So what are all those 2 methods? First one is the component get derived states from the props means this function is mainly used to get the properties when the component is going to mount it into the web page. Okay, first one is the constructor. Constructor is nothing but a special function that will be called whenever a component is going to load it. This is the default behavior. And what are all other things you can do? Here itself you can see. You can create a new state. Okay, you can create a new state. And then you have one superoff method which will be used to get the what is going to have, which will be used to get the parent functions to be called. Okay, and the second one is get static. This is a static method, so you can't change the input and output. So get derived props. So whenever a state of the component depends upon the change, means whenever a component is loading, when a component is going to loading, at the time, if properties are changing, then it will be executed. Okay, this is mainly for the set a default state for the component. So you have the states correct. So suppose at this time this dot state is not set. When the constructor is there, you are not set. So you wanted to set based on the properties you are receiving. At that time, you can use this get derived state from the props. So in this method, you can get the properties. Okay, and by using these properties, you can set the default states for a component. That's reason we are going to use get derived state from the props. Okay, at the time we are going to use get derived state from the props. And remember one thing, whenever you are doing component mounting lifecycle methods, you should not use any Ajax calls or any other things, because if you call Ajax, what happens is like if the Ajax is blocked, your total application will be blocked. You are not able to get the view until unless third-party API is responded. So you should not use the. So I'll do a console over here. Console.logout. Hello. Called when component is mounting. So let's execute and see. This method is not going to execute when the component is updating. Let's see now. So it is executing. Let's see the output once it is executed. Go to the console. Called when component is mounting. Whenever the component is mounting, this function is called. Now see here, I am going to change it. Okay. So Wait, there is something is missing over here. Internal. So it is executing. Let me write one more method. So there is a third method, fourth method, that is component did mount. This will be executed when the component is mounted. And see here, component mounted successfully. So whenever you are executing, see here, you are not able to see the component mounted successfully message over here. Whenever I am updating, what is happening? You can see only a component is mounting. So whenever a component is mounting, so whenever this component is mounting, so get derived state from the props. So the properties, it can be received and it can be updated. But component did mount is not going to execute because it will execute first time when a component is loading. Second time onwards, if the component is going to mount, it won't to execute. Means second time is component is not going to mount it. It is trying to update. It is trying to modify some information on the component, and it is comparing the old component and the two components, new components, and it is giving. So this method is going to call whenever any component is going to load it first time. Okay, this is about component mounting. And what is the fourth method? Is the render off method. So render off method is going to execute whenever a component is going to mount it to the application. Okay, these are all the methods which are going to be executed whenever a component is going to mount it. Okay, as soon as a component is mounted, first one is constructor. It will execute only one time when the component is loading into the application. And the second one is get derived state from the props. So whenever a component is mounting, it is used to get the properties and use it to update the states. Okay, this get derived state from the props, I will explain you when the component updating. Okay, and the third one is component. Third one is render off. Render off method is used to create a component or create UI onto the web page. And the fourth one is component did mount, will execute when the component is successfully visible on the web page. So these are all the component mounting lifecycle methods. In this, only constructor and component did mount will execute only once, and get derived state from the props and render will be executed when component is updating also. Okay. So these are all the component lifecycle, mounting lifecycle methods. And the next one is component updating lifecycle methods. So what are all the component updating lifecycle methods? So in this first one is going to be, we don't have constructor, other things. The first one in component update lifecycle method is get derived state from the props. Okay. So get derived state from the props method is used in the component mounting as well as component updating. So whenever a component is going to mount or update, it is used to receive the properties from the same method or some other same component or other component, and we can modify the states. So that's reason we are going to use get derived states from the props. Okay, this is one more method in component updating lifecycle method. And the next important method is going to be should component update. So you don't need to write in any order, you can write order anyway. Should component should component update method having a lot of functionality. It's not having a lot of functionality, it having many users in component update. So this should component update method tells to the component render method need to execute or not. So previously what I said, there is a set state method. Okay, even if a set state method is called, the default behavior is render need to execute. But the should component update method tells to the component render method need to be executed or not. I will show you the example here. What I'm telling here, see here, return false. Okay, and now let me execute my code. See here what happening. I'm removing the content in this page. In this, I'm deleting the content, or I'm trying to copy and delete. But my component is not updating. See here, I have only Kishore that is fixed. But here if you see, even I'm doing any mouse action or keyboard action, component is mounting, this is calling, get derived state from props is calling. But render off is not executing. Let me make it as true. And now execute it. See here, whenever I change, it is removing the data. So what happening here? The component should component update method tells to the component render method need to execute or not. So I'll show you an example here. Okay. So what I'm doing here is this dot state dot username equal to ABC, return false, else return true. Now let me execute. If I remove See, KISHORE, everything working. Now let me provide A. It worked. So what I gave? ABC. Let me provide B. We can see this one. Let me provide C. After this, add anything. See here what is happening. I am reviewing Kishore. It's worked. If I provide A, you can see component is coming. Previous value is A, current value is, previous value is empty, current value is A. Let me provide B. You can see what is the old state? A, and the current state is AB. And provide C. See the value, old value is A, B, and new value is ABC. And provide E. Current value is ABC, and if you see E is not printing over here. Can you see? E is not printing over here. Are you getting? You're getting. And what I'll do is here. So let's see. ABC I have provided. After this, if I try to enter anything, I can't see any value. I can see here you can see old value is ABCD, ABCF, TE, anything, but it is not going to update over here. So should component update method tells to the component, do I need to render? Do I need to execute render method or not? Okay, that is the use of should component update method. It tells to the component render method need to be executed or not. Okay, got it? And the next method is render off. Render off will be executed even it is a component mounting or updating lifecycle method. And there is a final method here, get snapshot before update. So why this is going to be used? Okay, so get snapshot before update method mainly used when the component is there in the virtual DOM, where I told you like component will be checking with the original DOM and the virtual DOM. So whenever a component is going to render from virtual DOM to the actual DOM, at that time get snapshot before update. So this method is going to be used when a component is going to be removed from the UI and actual virtual from the virtual DOM a component is going to update. Okay, this is the method is mainly used when component is going to be update from the virtual DOM to the actual DOM. Okay. Got it. So any questions till here? And there is one more method that is called component did update. So this method will be called, I'll just provide console.log component is updated to DOM. Component updating. So component did update method will be called same like component did mount. So whenever a component completed its updation at that time, we are going to use component did update. Okay, let's see here. I'm just modifying here. See here. Okay. For component get snapshot before update component update. Sorry, component get SLAB. Sorry, I have provided wrong names. Short. See here, component updated successfully and snapshot before update return null. So it will return some data. So as of now, I don't want any data. I'm going to provide null. See here, whenever a component is updated, what are the functions are get, snapshot, before update, and component updated successfully. So every time a component is updating, these are all the data will be updated. Okay. So like this, we have different methods whenever a component is going to update or a component is going to mount or unmount. Sorry, component is going to update and mount. So there is one method in component unmounting. So whenever we are trying to unmount a component, at that time component will unmount function. It will be executed whenever this component is going to be removed from the UI. So whenever a component is going to be removed from the UI, at that time component will unmount going to execute. These are all the component lifecycle methods mainly we are having. Component mounting lifecycle method, component updating lifecycle method, and component unmounting. So basically we have main two functions are going to execute. One is the constructor, one is the render. These are all the default. So constructor is a component mounting lifecycle method. So it is going to execute when a component is going to mount first time, and then get derived state from the props. So this method will be executed when the component is mounting or updating. At the both times it is going to check for the component is going to mount or unmount, or we are receiving any properties when the component is going to modify. So that reason we are going to use get derived state from the props. And then we have render. So render of method will be used to render some UI to the render some what are all the UI components, UI look you have written in this render method to the UI. And the fourth method is component did mount. So component is successfully placed on the UI. At that time component did mount will be executed. These are all the component mounting lifecycle methods. And there are component updating lifecycle methods. In the first one is get derived states from the props. So whenever a component is going to update it, it is mainly used to receive states, or it mainly used to receive properties, so that here we can update in the state. That's reason get derived state from the props is going to be used. And the next one is should component update. So this method tells render of method need to be executed or not on the UI. Okay, render of method is going to execute or not in the UI, that tell to the component. So should component method is going to be important when we are going to, when we don't want to execute a component. And the next one is get snapshot before update. So this will be executed whenever the component is going to be mounted from virtual DOM to the actual DOM. So virtual DOM to the actual UI, whenever component is going to be placed, at that time we are going to use should get snapshot before update. And the last one is component did update. So component is going to be updated completion to the UI. At that time component did update will execute. And the final one is component will unmount. So this method will be executed when the component is going to be removed from the UI. Okay, these are all the main uses of component mounting, unmounting, updating. Okay, any questions still here? And the next thing what we are going to see here is we are going to see how a Node.js can connect to the database. How can we connect Node.js to the database? Okay, let me close this one. Okay, let's see how can we connect database to the server. So I am going to create a simple Node.js here. Sorry. Okay, and then HTTP response type and content type is HTML. Response dot and sample page, and then I am listening to the server 1, 2, 3, 4. I am starting this node server. Node.js. If you provide localhost 1, 2, 3, 4, the sample page is open. Now I have a simple Node.js, and how can we connect to the database? Let's see how can we connect database to the MySQL. So you can do it for anything. Let's see how can we connect to the MySQL. Before do this, I am going to see there is a MySQL in my system or not. I have some other server I am executing MySQL. I'm just starting MySQL server. See here, I am creating a MySQL. Okay. So I have PHP installed in my system. I have a test database. Okay, or else I have a sample database. Okay, I have a sample database. Let me connect to this database by using MySQL. So we have multiple plugins. We have multiple plugins available in Node.js. Okay, multiple things available in Node.js. Okay, so let me create a simple DB connection, db.js. For this, I need MySQL in my system. So I am going to require. So I am going to access MySQL from my Node.js. Okay, and then I am creating a connection to the MySQL. MySQL dot create connection. When you create a connection, you need to provide host name and username and password. So my host name is localhost. My host name is localhost and username is root. Password is empty. Okay, and then I'm just checking connection dot connect. So I'm doing a connect. So whenever connect method calls, I'm going to check connection is established or not. Function, it returns an error value. I'm going to check if error, throw error. If not, console dot log off MySQL is connected. So let me see my MySQL connection is connecting or not. Let go this node and execute node space db.js. Through error, it is saying that MySQL is not connected. MySQL dot create connection. See, it is saying what is the error? Cannot find module called MySQL. So what we need to do? We need to install npm install -g will install globally. I'm just installing MySQL dependency to my Node.js. So my MySQL dependency is installed 2.18.1 version. Let me execute db.js. What is saying? Slower internal cannot find. Why it is not installing? See here, now it is showing some other error. So previously, if you see, there is different error. Now, if you see, MySQL is available in the previously, what is the error it is saying? MySQL is not available. But now, if you see, a node modules folder is created over here, and you can able to see in this node module, you can able to see MySQL. Just go to the index.thing, and you can able to see the MySQL connection things. So, and now why the error got removed and why it is giving you different error? Because previously what we did, I have installed MySQL globally. Okay, if you see here what I did, npm install -g MySQL. So MySQL got installed globally. So that's reason this is not available in my current classes folder. So you are not able to see it. But as soon as I installed MySQL in this current folder, npm install MySQL. So here it got included and MySQL 2.18.1 got installed. And if you see the error, node db.js, and it is saying connect error connected 127.0.0.1 and 3306. Okay, so what is saying connect error it is showing. So let's provide the port number. Okay, what is the port number? 3306 and host name is 127.0.0.1 and port password is the host is the password. So there is a socket path issue. I'm just looking it. Okay, because this is I am facing because of socket path issue. So I need to get this socket path. Based on this socket path, I'll get it worked. Okay. Because of the socket path, I am facing this issue. So if it is Windows, you can able to figure out this issue perfectly. So what we need to provide is like you need to provide like this. We need to provide as a socket path. So you need to provide socket path by finding the socket path in your local computer, so that your MySQL connection will happen. And after this, once the connection is happen, what you can do is here you can write connection.query and you can execute select star from you can do all these queries over here. And what we can do is here you can add database test, whatever the database you wanted to add, those things you can add over here and you can start your MySQL program. Okay, like this you can able to connect MySQL to the database, your node application to the database. Not only this one, you can do any database connections by using the Node.js. It may be MongoDB, the same way you can connect. There is a MongoDB client and you can do MongoDB client and you can create a MongoDB connection over here. You can require MongoDB over here instead of MySQL. You can install here and you can do it. So what is the driver is? Driver itself MongoDB. So this is the driver for the MongoDB. and you can install the MongoDB and you can start executing the MongoDB. Okay, this is the way you can able to connect databases by using Node.js. Okay, so that's it for today's. Do you have any questions? Okay, that's it from my side. We have seen what are all the component lifecycle methods and how can we connect to the database by using Node.js. Okay, that's it from my side. Thank you guys. Thanks very much. Have a great day.